Russia's defense ministry said on Tuesday that it has regained control of a village in its Kursk region.
Trust and participation in elections all over the world is declining for 8 years in a row. Something that is also happening in Europe, as the Global State of Democracy report states. For Europe, polarization in politics is one of the issues, says Sam van der Staak, the director of International Ideas Euro program.
It's countries that have been in the news, but also a lot of countries that as an outsider you wouldn't suspect. Countries like Greece and Bulgaria and Spain and Portugal and the Netherlands and outside the EU, the United Kingdom. They're still very healthy, functioning democracies, but you see that in parts of the system things are cracking. And that's often because of the politics is really putting a lot of pressure on how democracy functions. There's more polarization, there's more pressure from political parties to say things need to change. And of course, there's a lot of citizens that are dissatisfied by the way that democracy is delivering on their everyday concerns.
But not everything is bad news in Europe. For van der Staak, the improvement in Central and Eastern European countries is closing the divide between old, established democracies and newer ones, helping Europe come together. The State of Democracy report identifies, however, two main causes to explain why politics loses credibility.
We've seen it in countries like France, Spain, the Netherlands, Bulgaria, all across Europe. There's been votes for the extremes that after the election stay out of power, and people then wonder why go and vote at all. There's also the pressure from outside. So we see that there's forces such as Russia, but also other authoritarian powers that try to abuse this weakness that we're seeing to stir even more dissatisfaction. So there's a pressure from outside through disinformation, through cyber attacks on the elections, through foreign funding.
For van der Staak, elections worldwide are a source of concern, with 10% lower participation than 15 years ago, and with 20% of recent years' elections where the losing candidate does not accept the outcome. In some years, the sight of people smoking on bar terraces might be a thing of the past. This Tuesday, the European Commission presented a recommendation to extend smoking-free areas to playgrounds, swimming pools, bus stops, stations, or outdoor areas from schools and hospitals. And for the first time, Brussels asks it to be applied to vapors and electronic cigarettes.
I think it's a good idea because it's not nice for non-smokers, I can see that. But I'm a smoker myself. I don't think I will quit smoking when they ban it on terraces, because that's not my motivation to quit.
It doesn't really bother me, to be honest, because vapes, they don't really have that strong of a smell, and I think bars should be the place. Well, it's not the place where you would like bring kids or something.
The text is non-binding, which means that countries won't be forced to apply it. But still, for organizations against tobacco, it's good news.
Yeah, definitely. We've been waiting. It expands the scope of the original recommendation from 2009 to include outdoor spaces like parks, for example, and playgrounds, but also it includes new products which are extremely consumed among the youth, among teenagers. So we believe that this proposal have the power to reduce the smoking prevalence, especially of new products with the youth.
With the recommendation, the European Commission is trying to work toward its goal to achieve a smoke-free generation by 2040, with less than 5% of the population smoking. Today, it is at 24%.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says more than €1 billion of funding will be needed for relief efforts following widespread flooding in Poland. Tusk's call for European aid follows days of heavy rainfall across swathes of Central Europe, which has caused severe flooding in Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania and Austria.
Dwa systemy pomocy europejskiej, jeśli chodzi o sytuację powodziową. Pierwszy nie jest związany z pieniędzmi, które do nas trafią, tylko z możliwościami Europy, jeśli chodzi o pomoc w sprzęcie, w ludziach, w technologiach i to jest ten mechanizm ochrony cywilnej.
At least 18 people have been killed in the floods so far, and evacuations have taken place in Poland, the Czech Republic and Austria. An emergency shelter has been set up in the Tillen exhibition hall in Austria, while more than 5,000 troops have been deployed to southern Poland to help fortify sandbanks along the Nysa-Klodzka river. Flood alert levels remain high in the Czech Republic, although meteorologists expect water levels in southern Bohemian rivers to reduce throughout the day. Slovakia's interior minister says the flood situation there is improving, but attention must now be turned to aftermath relief efforts. Meanwhile, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has called for the solidarity of all of Europe to provide as much support as possible to the countries affected by flooding.
After weeks of consultations behind closed doors, the Commission's president announced on Tuesday the policy portfolios of her 26-strong team of commissioners. There will be 6 executive vice presidents who will deal with big umbrella portfolios. In picking these specific ones, Ursula von der Leyen ensured that her new team will have geographical as well as political representation. 2 from Socialists, Spain and Romania, 1 from EPP, Finland, 1 from ECR, Italy, and 2 from Liberals, France and Estonia.
6 executive vice presidents, 4 women, 2 men. If you look at the geographical balance, 3 are from member states that joined before the fall of the Iron Curtain. 3 are from member states that joined after Europe was reunited. From the Baltics, the Nordics, and Eastern Europe. We have ministers and prime ministers, very different backgrounds, with one common goal, and that is to make Europe stronger.
One of the names that are more controversial is Raffaele Fitto from Meloni's hard-right party, who has been nominated to be executive vice president for cohesion and reforms. The 22 commissioners from the other member states complete the team. There are some new portfolios such as energy and housing, Mediterranean and defense.
Last time, the topic of global warming was absolutely top. And this was the reason why I started the European Green Deal. The dominance of this topic is still there, but this time, for example, the topic of security triggered by the Russian war in Ukraine, but also the topic of competitiveness has a much broader, much more impact on the composition and the design of the political guidelines, and then, of course, the organization of the college.
It was also a surprise that the hardliner Austrian Commissioner Magnus Brunner will be the Commissioner for Internal Affairs and Migration. The Hungarian Commissioner Oliver Varhelyi got the weak portfolio for health and animal welfare.
I have already carried out for the Commission.
Ursula von der Leyen's first goal was to have gender balance in her new team. But the best she could do was the 40-60 ratio. She gave, however, 4 of the executive vice president positions to women. One of them is Romania, which retracted its original candidate after von der Leyen lobbied for that. After the first relief, now comes the hard part of the commissioners. The new commission is expected to be in place at the least the 1st of December.
Poland declared a state of natural disaster after heavy flooding killed at least 5 people. The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says this will facilitate evacuation operations and expedite financial support for victims.
Zwołałem to posiedzenie przede wszystkim, żeby jak najszybciej przyjąć rozporządzenie o wprowadzeniu stanu klęski żywiołowej. Zwróciłem się do ministra finansów i w tej chwili mamy zapewnioną rezerwę na potrzeby miejsc i ludzi ogarniętych powodzią. W tej chwili 1 miliard złotych.
Evacuations as a result of the widespread flooding also took place in the Czech Republic, Austria, and Romania. The majority of the Czech Republic was impacted by the heavy rain, and authorities declared high flood warnings in roughly 100 places. The Oder River that flows to Poland reached extreme levels in Ostrava, the third largest Czech city. Many parts of the city were underwater, and centers have been set up for those who had to evacuate. Meanwhile, Hungary braces itself for the rainfall. Locals helped fortify some of the most threatened areas. The mayor of Budapest warns that the capital faces what could be the biggest flood of the decade. The Hungarian Interior Minister Sándor Pinter confirmed that 12,000 troops were on standby.
Tensions at the border between Ceuta and Morocco continued for the third night in a row as riot police were deployed to disperse people attempting to cross into the Spanish enclave. The Moroccan police used water cannons to disperse the groups of young people who were hiding in the hills and throwing stones at the police. About 80 to 100 people tried to enter the Spanish town late Monday night. On Sunday, hundreds of people had already been stopped in an attempt to cross the border following calls on social media. Ceuta is one of two small Spanish territories on the Mediterranean coast and has long been targeted by migrants and refugees seeking better lives in Europe. Many attempt to climb over the barbed wire fences or swim to reach the enclave by sea. In August alone, the Moroccan Interior Ministry reported more than 11,000 migrant attempts were prevented in the region around Ceuta.